Good morning, everyone. You're very welcome to this morning's information webinar about our new short course recently launched in collaboration with PAT Business School called Operational Resilience for Credit Unions. My name is Denise McLaughlin and I am part of the LAA team. And I'm delighted to be joined here today by course lecturer Michelle McGuire, who is a highly accomplished risk and compliance executive. She has over 15 years of progressive leadership experience across the financial services sector, and her expertise span the full spectrum of risk management and regulatory compliance. And as mentioned, she is the lecturer on this course and delivers and presents the modules. So I'll just get you to move to the next slide there, Michelle.
There we go. Sorry, this took me a second.
No, you're grand. Thanks so much. So just in terms of what we'll be going through during the webinar, I'll be giving you a high-level overview of the course delivery and logistics, and then Michelle is just going to take you through an overview of the course content, who the course is tailored for, the modules in the course, and what you can expect to take away from the course. And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A for any of your questions as well. And then you can move to the next slide as well, Michelle. Thanks. And just in terms of the course delivery, then it is available on demand, and that just means that lectures are pre-recorded and they can be completed in your own time and at your own pace. And at the end of each module, there will be a short quiz that's just going to test your knowledge of the content. And there's 6 modules in total, and you will get a certificate of completion from LAA once you complete the course. And just in terms then of the course cost, so it is €350 for LAA members and €400 for non-LAA members. And registrations are now open for the course, and more information will be followed up with at the end on how you can actually register for it. So as I mentioned, if you have any questions during the webinar for myself or Michelle, please do use the Q&A box there at the bottom of your screen, and we'll answer them at the end. So I'll just pass you over to Michelle now. Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Denise. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. As Denise said, I'm Michelle McGuire. I developed and delivered the course content on operational resilience for credit unions. Just by way of context and background, I've spent the past number of years operating in head of risk and compliance roles in RegTech firms. And with that meant that I had to ensure that the platforms that we sell to our clients were resilient, they operated within certain protocols and SLAs, and that we were able to serve our clients and meet our clients' needs and their regulatory expectations, because primarily we were selling into the regulated financial services space. So it's an area that is of great interest to me. It's one that I've spent a lot of time working in. And indeed, it's one that's getting incredible regulatory focus. I'm sure you're all very aware of DORA, of operational resilience. There have been some high-profile outages of banks and various different financial services firms. And it is something that is getting increasing regulatory oversight. And again, from a kind of vendor into the regulated financial services sector, we would see an increasing expectation from our clients in respect of due diligence, in terms of procurement, in terms of service level agreements and delivery of services. So it is a very far-reaching, DORA in itself is a very far-reaching act. And in terms of, I guess, third-party service providers, it has increased the focus and the oversight on them. And this course is intended to kind of help you navigate the operational resilience requirements and help manage some of the expectations of it. So I'll just take you through the modules. There's 6 in total. I'm going to just briefly talk through what each module covers. And again, as Denise said, if there's any questions, feel free to pop them into the Q&A box and we will address them at the end of the session. So as Denise said at the top of the webinar, the course has been developed in collaboration with PAT Business School. I am a lecturer with PAT on a part-time basis. I created their DORA course, and I lecture part-time on fintech risk and compliance. And I was asked, and I was delighted to have been asked to help develop this particular course for the LIA with respect to operational resilience for credit unions. And our aim, and I guess ultimately what we believe we've achieved, is it is sessions in practical strategies for enhancing your digital resilience, managing the risks associated with IT and third-party service providers, and ensuring overall compliance for a credit union. So we're going to look at who this course is designed for, and ultimately, I guess, with operational resilience and with any sort of regulatory compliance requirement, your board of your organization is ultimately responsible for the management, the oversight, and the governance of the regulatory requirements. So in this case, it's operational resilience, or DORA. And DORA is very explicit where it states that the board is ultimately responsible for any resilience requirements, any testing, any management, any training, and culturally responsible for DORA. So we do encourage that board members of your credit unions take this course. The onus is on people and those in senior leadership, like boards, like senior managers, to have an awareness and understanding and a knowledge of the operational resilience and DORA requirements, but again, having a fundamental understanding of your IT risk management frameworks, of your third-party providers, and of your testing and your ongoing compliance requirements. So again, it's designed for senior management, senior leaders, risk professionals, compliance officers, and your ICT governance teams. And what I will say is DORA is quite technical by its nature. It's requiring more technical involvement for compliance professionals than ever before. And what I do say to people is I am by no means a technologist. It's not my background. But having worked in the RegTech sector, in the fintech sector, I've had to get up to speed with how technology works, how it operates, how it integrates with other providers, both for ourselves but for our clients. And the onus is now on, depending on the organization, on the compliance team to understand how the technology in the organization operates, how it interoperates, what happens if it goes down, how quickly is it recoverable. And that itself can be quite technical. So it is I guess there is a kind of cross-sectoral requirement for a credit union. So it needs to involve your ICT governance teams, your IT leadership, your third-party providers. So as I said, it's a very far-reaching act, but we do say that this course, is for your leadership, your risk managers, your ICT governance teams. And to be honest, if I was to go a step further, I would also say that in some cases, your head of IT should be considering taking this course so that they themselves understand the regulatory requirements of DORA and operational resilience. Okay, I'm going to move now to look at the module contents. And as I said, there are 6 modules in this course. And at the end of each module, there'll be a quiz for you to complete. So that each module, there'll be a quiz for you to complete as you move through. And the quizzes in itself will test your understanding of the content delivered during the module. And you'll be required, as I understand it, to pass those before you can move forward. So in terms of module 1, and in that module, we look at the governance fundamentals and DORA compliance. So the module is intended to introduce what DORA is. It gives you a brief overview of the requirements, the structure. There's 64 articles within the Act. So as I said, it's very vast. And so while we don't go into great levels of detail what it is, we give you an outline of what the structure is, the specific governance requirements for Irish credit unions, and really fundamentally what DORA is. Within this module, then we'll look at what is known as Articles 5 and 6, and that is where the role of management, the role of the board in overseeing operational resilience comes into play. So as I said, the board is ultimately responsible. The board needs to understand the IT-related risks the credit union faces, and they're also responsible for training, cultural aspects of resilience, and tone from the top. So we'll explore that in a little bit of detail, focusing on the requirements and the onus on the board and senior leadership. And we'll also look at governance frameworks, how they can align with strategic objectives while ensuring compliance with DORA and safeguarding your operational integrity. And this, again, as I say, it's your tone from the top, so it's your foundation. It's the building blocks of the framework within the organization. And again, you will have heard me say that the board needs to understand the IT related risks, so that will require input from your IT teams or your ICT governance teams, and indeed any third parties that you engage with. Now, on to the second module, and this is where we'll focus on business continuity planning for resilience. Sometimes you'll hear business continuity planning referred to as incident management or ICT incident management, but fundamentally what we'll look at here is what is required by Articles 13 and 49 of DORA in respect of business continuity. So that will look at your planning, your testing, your simulations, disaster recovery efforts. And it's been my experience in years gone by that business continuity testing and incident testing has primarily focused on being able to access an office site or being able to continue to deliver services if the electricity goes down, for example. DORA contemplates what happens if your ICT third-party service provider goes down, if you are no longer able to take cash over the desk from members. What if your critical services are no longer? What if they're not working? Can you resume them? How quickly can you resume them? So in this module, we focus on how to design a well-structured BCP plan, how you test it, why it's important that it is tested on a no less than annual basis, and looking at strategies for data loss, strategies for recovery, and backup planning or resilience testing. And more often than not, these are new enough concepts to organizations. Disaster recovery, sometimes involves taking down of systems to see how quickly teams can recover them, or what they know as sail over to another cloud provider, for example. So these are sometimes new concepts for organizations, but they are required under DORA. So there is perhaps some work that will need to be carried out in terms of business continuity planning in credit unions going forward. We'll also look at the importance of mapping third-party dependencies. And what I mean by that is looking at your critical ICT vendors. If you are using a screening provider for anti-money laundering, if you're using your IT provider for your member applications, or how you're lodging cash, for example. So making sure that you have fully mapped all third-party dependencies and ensuring that you understand recovery strategies that are essential for maintaining your operational resilience in complex environments. And the more dependent on IT, the more third-party ICT vendors you have, the more complex these efforts may be. So it is critical that you have these vendors mapped out and the resilience strategies documented, so that you can understand, particularly if there is an event, if there is an outage, that this is documented, that you have a playbook or a runbook to work from in hopefully the unlikely event of a business continuity event. However, it is recognised in industry now, it's not a case of if, but when these type of events happen. In module 3, then we're going to look at incident reporting governance, and this is, I guess, after the fact. So you've had your event, what happens in the kind of hours, the days, and the weeks afterwards. And this module will focus on the requirements of Article 17 to 20, which outlines the requirements for incident reporting, classification of incidents, escalation, and documentation of any incidents that you have. Now, bearing in mind, DORA is quite explicit in reporting timeframes to the competent authority. In this case, it would be the Central Bank of Ireland, of any certain types of cyber incidents you've had, or ICT related outages. So this module is intended to help you learn how to establish governance protocols for timely and accurate incident reporting, and ensure that that is aligned with regulatory standards. Also, notwithstanding kind of reporting to the regulator, you will have stakeholders, which would be your members, you will staff, any other organizations that are either dependent on you or you are dependent on them. So communication planning is very important. So having a clear protocol for incident reporting that covers all aspects, right down to notifying members and, from notifying the regulator. So it is important that you have timely and accurate incident reporting processes, but also that the staff are aware of what they need to do in terms of crisis and who is responsible for what. So these protocols, I should also say, should also be tested, and that would form part of the BCP testing that we've talked about in Module 2. But lastly, in terms of incident reporting governance, emphasis is placed on the role of the board in overseeing responses and leveraging any incident-related data for strategic improvement. So again, going back to the core concept, the board is ultimately responsible for the obligations under DORA. Let's move to Module 4 then, and this focuses on ICT risk management frameworks. These are a distinct concept from your risk management frameworks. And what I mean by that is that ICT risk will have its own unique set of risks, and each credit union will have to assess what their ICT related risks are. These will be unique to every organization. It will be dependent on the amount of third parties you use, how overly reliant you are on certain systems, what your concentration risk may be in relation to a specific vendor. But this block will cover risk identification, assessment and mitigation strategies, as well as continuous monitoring to align risk practices with your own internal risk appetite statement. We will look also at well-established or well-known frameworks like ISO 27001 and how they may be able to help you achieve a compliant ICT risk management framework. Now, these are not panaceas, they're not catch-alls, they're not a silver bullet, they're not going to say to you you're fundamentally compliant, but again, they certainly aid in helping you build your ICT risk management framework, and they are often viewed as best in class in terms of management and continuous improvement of your ICT risk management frameworks. We'll also look a little bit about continuous improvement and why that is important, continuous monitoring of your frameworks, and updating and upgrading of these. It's often been the case that sometimes frameworks were static, they were created and they were identified, and maybe once a year they got a review. DORA does contemplate what's called continuous monitoring, that you would be horizon scanning or monitoring for risks, or you would be using data from all types of incidents in the organization to continuously improve your risk management frameworks. In Module 5, we're going to look at continuous monitoring, regular reviews under Article 14 of DORA. And specifically, we're going to focus on key performance indicators or KPIs. And a bit like your risk management frameworks, these will be unique to each credit union. So it's looking at developing what are your testing methods, what modes of measurement will you use. And it's my view that what is not measured is not managed. And that's a fundamental principle of risk management. But it's very hard for you to continuously improve your risk management frameworks without measuring them. So we'll look at how to identify KPIs, how to build KPIs that will help you provide insights into resilience performance. But again, I must stress that these will be unique to each organization, will equip you with, I guess, the theory behind it and how you would build it, and then you would use this to critically assess your own organization and build your KPIs so that you can do management of the risks identified. We're also going to look at post-incident reviews and audits as tools for improving governance and operational processes. So with your BCP or your incident response plans, you will always do what's called a post-incident review, or lessons learned, as they're sometimes referred to, and what learnings or what improvements can be gleaned from those exercises. I worked in an organization once that did reporting of all types of incidents, just not ICT related ones, and every quarter they had a how could we do better session, a lessons learned session. And we brought a broad spectrum of staff in across the board, and we asked them for their views on how could we prevent a specific type of incident happening again. And that was our way of measuring and, I guess, providing governance of incidents and how we could learn and continuously improve our risk management frameworks. So again, it's just looking at strategies, how you might employ them, and how you may need to adjust them for your specific credit union. And then lastly, in terms of module 6, and I guess this is the final module in this short course, and it ultimately provides you a roadmap for implementing and continuously improving your frameworks. So it's, I guess, an opportunity for us to discuss how you can keep on top of evolving risks and regulatory updates, how you can incorporate feedback loops into your credit union, and looking at what is coming. I guess the world that we live in, cyber criminals, kind of fraudsters, they're always 2 or 3 steps ahead of where any of us could be, or any kind of monitoring or systems can be. So making sure that you are on top of regulatory updates, making sure you're on top of certain types of trends that are emerging within the industry or within the sector, and building those into feedback loops to refine your resilience efforts. And finally, then within this module, we'll tie together lessons from previous sessions, and that will enable any student or learner to create actionable plans for sustained compliance and resilience. So it's really a kind of wrapping up module, covering all the kind of themes and concepts that we look at within the 6 modules of this short course. So we thought it'd be useful just to kind of explore what you can expect to take away from this course. And I guess this is the reason why the course is created. It has to provide value for you and your organization. So we believe that you will gain a deep understanding of how to strengthen governance structures within your credit union, how you will learn to protect critical services. And this is a fundamental principle of DORA. It's protecting your critical services and protecting your consumer, i.e. your member. And lastly, to build long-term stability in an increasingly digital financial landscape. So it goes without saying that we are more digitally evolved than ever before. Generations of young people now are digitally native. There is an expectation that we have apps, we provide services digitally, that we remove paper for sustainability reasons. And with this digital march towards full kind of digitization does bring its own risks and its own problems. And the ultimate aim of DORA, and the ultimate, I guess, principle behind it, is long-term stability and resilience in the financial services sector. So this course will help you look to build long-term stability within your credit union, particularly as we get more digitized and provide more services to members in a digitized fashion. Okay, that's it from me. We'll take some questions now, Denise, if that's okay.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much, Michelle. That was great. I'm just having a look through the questions now, and somebody has just asked there who should take the course, and I suppose why is operational resilience important in today's world?
So yes, we covered that a little bit earlier on. So, this course is available to everyone, anyone who has an interest in operational resilience or anyone who wants to further their career in that area. There is certainly many opportunities in the operational resilience space, and that goes without saying. But as a fundamental, board members of credit unions, senior managers, anyone working in risk and compliance, it's important that you evolve your skills in this area, because it's not one person's problem, it's everybody's problem in the credit union. Problem's perhaps not the right word, but everybody is required. It's a cross-sectoral, cross-cultural effort, because it is a vast and far-reaching piece of regulation. So it's important that with training, awareness, knowledge, and understanding, particularly if you are in a risk compliance or senior management field, that you consider taking this course.
Great, thanks. Someone just asked, once you start the course, is there a timeline in which the course must be completed? So you will have access to the course content for 6 months from your enrollment date, and after that it will be removed from your learning history, but it is advised to do the course as soon as possible so that you're getting the most out of the course and so that you're not forgetting content. And you can go back and revisit areas in the course. You can move back and forth between the lectures as well. Someone has just asked, what do regulators expect in regard to operational resilience training, board and employee awareness?
Yeah, so you would have heard me say a few times now that the board does retain ultimate responsibility. So the regulator will expect that the board is getting regular reporting, that they are approving, they're oversighting the risk frameworks, any testing that has gone on, any details of incidents that are reported. The regulator does expect that everybody within an organization is trained in operational resilience, but that would be specific to the role. It's not going to be, and it should not be, a one size fits all approach. It needs to be tailored to the nature, scale and complexity of the role. So if you're a board member, obviously you need to have a fundamental, complete and holistic understanding of the risks. Whereas if perhaps you are, a first line of defense in the organization, you may not need that level of complexity, but the board will, or the regulator will, expect to see the adjustments in the training. The regulator also expects that operational resilience is strategically integrated into all compliance and risk efforts within the credit union, that their training and awareness plans and ongoing training and awareness events for staff, but ultimately culture. They're looking for a culture of resilience, a culture of compliance with respect to operational resilience. So they're the things that if a regulator does come to inspect you, that they would fundamentally expect to see. And bear in mind as well, if you make a report at any time to the regulator, they will ask for documents, records of incidents and kind of how you approached an incident and what lessons were learned. So there is a lot of expectation with this, but ultimately the regulator is trying to protect the consumer and the broader financial services industry from any instability or any ICT related outage.
Brilliant, thanks. Someone just asked what CPD hours apply. So there's no CPD hours with this course. Upon completion, you will receive a certificate of completion from LIA once you complete it. Somebody else just asked, another for yourself, Michelle, how does a strong operational resilience posture enhance member trust and provide a competitive edge in the financial services market?
I guess in terms of member trust, you're providing a continuity of service, that your services are always available as your members would expect them to be it kind of cash deposits, cash withdrawals or loans, access to an app if there is one with your credit union, that your services are reliable, that they're not becoming frustrated that they can't do what they need to do in online banking or cash withdrawals or whatever it may be. Your members will also, I guess, look for the protection of their interests, safeguarding of their cash, their data, in particular, and that builds trust in the community. And the credit union serve communities, so trust is imperative. So having a good operational resilience posture will help maintain that. But regulatory compliance, I think sometimes that goes overlooked, but regulatory compliance does build a competitive advantage. If you are publicly named and shamed by a regulator or by the media for having a failing, for having a service outage or a loss of data or a loss of cash, or members' deposits, for example, that is very reputationally damaging. And that may sway, members from depositing or borrowing or lending. So having kind of a good regulatory posture, please God, no incidents or no reportable incidents that hit the media, that all builds trust in the sector and with your membership.
Brilliant, thanks. And there's a few questions actually in just and around exams. So there will be a short MCQ exam after each module. And then you'll need to pass that then to move on to the next module as well. Another for yourself, Michelle, what are the reputational risks for credit unions that fail to prioritize operational resilience, and how can compliance professionals help mitigate the risks?
Okay, so just I guess I talked a little bit about that in terms of the kind of trust and competitive advantage, but you know, should you have an outage or an cyber-related incident and you don't recover from that in a timely fashion, you know, membership trust, you know, is depleted. You may, you know, you'll be subject to kind of media reports, regulatory inspections, should there be one arising out of the incident. So in terms of reputation, it can be very far-reaching, and often that's more damaging than actually any fine that a regulator can levy. When you lose trust and your members lose faith in your credit union because of an outage or because of an incident, a cyber-related or a data loss incident, it does stop your client, your customer, your member from coming forward or perhaps engaging with your credit union. They may look to other service providers or other institutions that are not perhaps reported in the media as having had incidents. So a strong op resilience posture will very much protect your reputation. Now, it goes without saying, and I did say this, it's a case, you know, it's recognized that it's a case of when, not if anymore, that a type of incident like this may happen. And fundamentally, then it comes down to how you respond to it. So having a good framework, a well-tested, well-rounded op resilience framework will mitigate some of the reputational damage that you may face in light of an incident.
Brilliant. Thanks so much. So I think we've gotten through most of the questions there. But if you did have any other questions about anything that was discussed today, please do reach out to us in LAA or to Michelle. And if you want to just move to the last slide there, Michelle, I'll just go through how you can register for the course. Brilliant, thanks. So yeah, if you are interested in registering for the course, you can register now through our website. So if you just scan the QR code that's on the screen there, it'll bring you directly to the webpage to register. And if you're not an LAA member, you can still register for the course by creating a free LAA profile. Alternatively, if you'd like more information or any help there to register, please do email education@laa.ie. So just to wrap up, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us this morning. I hope you found the webinar beneficial. And thanks again to Michelle for a really great session as well. And just as a reminder, we will be contacting everyone after the event with a copy of the recording. So if you did have any questions, please do feel free to reach out to us. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.